There's something your dog has been waiting for its whole life, and very likely you've been getting it wrong every single day without even realizing it. You feed it, take it for walks, buy it toys, pet it whenever you have time, and you believe you're doing everything right. But what many people don't dare to face is this: love isn't wrong, but the way we express it can be. There are very small moments happening every day when your dog is trying to tell you something, and you unknowingly ignore it. When it quietly walks away instead of coming closer, when its tail wags just a little less, when its eyes don't look for you as often as before. And the scariest part is, you won't notice it right away. You'll think everything is fine until years pass, and the bond you believed was deep never truly existed the way you thought it did. But if you're watching this video, you still have time, because in the next few minutes, you'll understand things that most dog owners have never been told. You'll understand why some very familiar actions can actually make your dog feel stressed. Why sometimes what you think is love feels like pressure to them. And most importantly, you'll learn how to change things through very small adjustments, so your dog can trust you more, feel calmer, and connect with you on a much deeper level. No complicated techniques, no expensive tools, you just need to understand it correctly. And if you truly love your dog, stay until the end of this video, because what you hear at the very end might be the one thing your dog has been waiting for its entire life. There's one action that almost every dog owner has done, without realizing, can be harmful. It's when your dog tries to hide and you pull it out. When it crawls under the table, you think something is wrong. When it presses itself into a corner, you think it's scared and needs help. When it hides behind the couch, you call it out, pet it, try to make it feel normal again. But what you don't realize is, in that moment, it doesn't need you to rescue it. It just needs a place to rescue itself. Because inside your dog, there still exists a very ancient instinct, the instinct to find a den. Thousands of years ago, their ancestors survived by seeking small, enclosed, isolated spaces. That was the only place they could rest without being attacked. That was where their nervous system could finally relax. And that instinct has never disappeared. It's still there, quietly working every time your dog feels overwhelmed by noise, by its environment, by things it cannot control. So when it looks for a dark corner, when it squeezes into a tight space, it's not having a problem. It's doing exactly what its body is designed to do, to regulate its emotions. And when you pull it out, even with good intentions, you've unknowingly taken away the only place where it feels safe. Imagine this: every time you feel overwhelmed, you find a quiet room to hide in, but immediately someone opens the door, pulls you out, and tells you, "Don't stay here." How would you feel? For your dog, it feels the same. The only difference is it can't tell you. And the sad truth is, many dogs go through their entire lives without ever having a place that truly belongs to them. No corner where they can retreat without being called, touched, or disturbed. That means every time stress hits, they have to endure it alone, without a real safe space. But the good news is, this is incredibly easy to fix. You don't need to buy anything expensive. You just need to give your dog a space it can call its own. A bed placed in a quiet corner, a blanket under the table, an open crate it can enter and leave whenever it wants. What matters isn't the form, but the principle. When it goes there, no one disturbs it. And when a dog has that, you'll see a clear change. It won't disappear anymore. It won't need to hide as often. Instead, it will start showing up more, approaching you more on its own. Because when a living being feels safe, only then can it truly be present. And sometimes love isn't about pulling them closer to you. It's about giving them a place to go when they need to be away. There's something that sounds very simple, but is much harder to practice than you think. That is, stop touching your dog when it hasn't asked for it. It may sound strange because for humans, touch is one of the clearest ways to show affection. You walk past, see your dog lying there, and reach down to pet it. You sit down and your hand automatically goes to its head. You believe that's love. But from your dog's perspective, the story is completely different. In a dog's world, there is a concept many people overlook called personal space. Every time you initiate touch without being invited, you're sending a very small signal, repeated over and over every day. At first, it may not seem like much, but when it happens dozens of times a day, over weeks, over months, its nervous system begins to learn something very dangerous, that its body doesn't fully belong to it, that the signals it gives may not be respected, and that whether it wants it or not, you will still do what you want. This is what science calls learned helplessness. Not because you intend it, but because you unintentionally teach your dog that responding or not doesn't change anything. And a dog that falls into that state won't resist, won't fight back. It will simply withdraw. It's still there, still beside you, but the connection begins to fade. What's interesting is, when a dog truly wants to be close to you, it is never ambiguous. It will come toward you on its own. It will nudge your hand. It will press its body against your leg. That is a clear invitation. That is the moment it chooses you, not the other way around. And that choice is what creates a real bond. But for that to happen, you have to do something difficult. Hold your hand back. Walk past it and don't touch. Sit next to it and don't reach out. See it lying there and simply let it be. At first, you may feel like you're ignoring it, but in reality, you're doing the opposite. You're giving control back to your dog. And when a dog feels that, something very interesting happens. It will start coming closer to you more often. Not because you call it, not because you force it, but because for the first time, it feels safe to choose. And when a living being freely chooses to be with you instead of being pulled closer, that's when the real bond begins. Sometimes, love isn't about always reaching out, but about knowing when to wait so it can come to you. There is a kind of distance that you almost never notice, but your dog feels every second. That is the distance in height. You stand while it is always below. You move quickly while it always has to look up. You bend down when needed, then stand back up and continue your life. But to your dog, you are a giant being, controlling everything around it: food, space, sound, and even attention. In a dog's world, body size and posture are not just physical traits, they are signals. Signals of power, signals of safety. When an animal stands tall, moves quickly, and approaches from above, its nervous system automatically evaluates. Is this safe? And even if you have no bad intention, its body still reacts the way its ancestors did thousands of years ago. That's why some dogs that are very well behaved and familiar with their owners still step back slightly when you move quickly toward them. They blink faster, their body stiffens when you bend down too suddenly. Not because they don't trust you, but because a very deep part of their nervous system has never stopped being cautious. But here's the interesting part. You can completely change that perception with one very small action: lower yourself. Don't call it. Don't reach out. Don't do anything. Just sit on the floor in the same space as your dog, at the same level. And when you do that, the change is almost immediate. Its eyes will soften. Its body will relax. Some dogs will slowly come closer. Others may not even move, but will breathe more deeply, as if for the first time that day, they don't need to monitor you anymore. Because in that moment, you are no longer a large being controlling everything, but a part of its world. You are not overwhelming. You are simply present. And to a dog, that makes a huge difference. Especially with shy dogs, those that have been hurt before or easily startled, you might spend months trying to rebuild trust through training, rewards, or commands. But sometimes just 10 minutes a day, sitting quietly beside them, doing nothing, asking nothing, is the fastest way for them to understand you are not a threat. Dogs don't need you to become better. They just need you to become more understandable to their nervous system. And sometimes the fastest way to get closer to a living being is not to step toward it, but to lower yourself, so it no longer has to look at you as something too big to understand. There's a very familiar moment, but it's something you take away from your dog every single day. It's when your dog stops, lowers its head to the ground, and starts sniffing. And just a few seconds later, you pull the leash. You urge it to keep moving. You think it's being slow, not cooperating, wasting time. But the truth is, in that moment, it's doing the most important thing of the entire walk. Because for humans, the world is seen through the eyes. But for dogs, the world is read through the nose. Inside that small nose, there are hundreds of millions of scent receptors, many times more than humans. And the part of their brain that processes smell is far more developed than ours. That means Every time your dog lowers its head to sniff, it's not just smelling, it's gathering information. Who passed by here? Whether that dog was healthy or stressed, what it ate, whether it's familiar, everything is contained in scent. And when you pull it away mid-sniff, you're doing something very similar to closing a book right before the ending. Not once, but every single day. Imagine this. Every time you read a story, you're forced to stop before knowing how it ends. You would feel frustrated, restless, and eventually lose patience with reading itself. For your dog, the same feeling happens. It just can't tell you. But there's something even more important. Sniffing isn't just how your dog understands the world. Sniffing is how it regulates its emotions. When a dog is allowed to sniff long enough, if its nervous system begins to slow down, its breathing becomes more even, stress starts to decrease. It's the most natural way for it to release pressure in a world where most things are beyond its control. So, a walk is not about distance, not about speed. It's about whether your dog is allowed to read the world in its own way. A patch of grass that means nothing to you could be a story that takes minutes for your dog to process. And if you give it time to finish reading, you'll come home to a completely different dog, calmer, more relaxed, more connected to you. What you need to do isn't complicated. Just slow down a little. Choose routes where you don't have to rush. And sometimes, instead of leading your dog, let it lead you. Not all the time, but enough for it to feel that it also has the right to explore its own world. Because to your dog, a walk is not about moving. It's a rare opportunity to truly be itself. There's something most people never think about, yet it directly affects your dog's emotions every day. That is rhythm. Not how much you love it, not how long you play with it, but whether its life is predictable. Humans live by the clock. We understand schedules, tomorrow, next week, but for a dog, time doesn't exist that way. It doesn't know that 7 a.m. is morning or 6 p.m. is evening. The only thing it understands is what happens next, and it builds its entire emotional world based on those repeating patterns. Have you noticed, some days you come home later than usual, yet it still waits by the door at the same time. Sometimes it sits in the kitchen before it's even feeding time. It's not guessing. It's because in its mind, there is already a map of routines, and in that map, you are the center. When things follow a rhythm, your dog feels safe. It knows when it will eat, when you will return, when it's time to go for a walk. And that sense of knowing allows its nervous system to rest. No need to stay alert, no need to worry. But when that rhythm is broken, even slightly, its world begins to shift. Feeding time changes unpredictably. Some days there's a walk, some days there isn't. Some days you're home early, others very late. To you, that's just normal life. But to your dog, it becomes an unstable world, a world where it cannot predict what will happen next. And when a living being cannot predict its environment, its nervous system stays in a state of partial alertness. Not stressed enough to react, but not safe enough to fully relax. And that state over time becomes the root of many behaviors humans call confusing. Being easily startled, becoming overly clingy, or on the other hand, distant. The important thing is, you don't need to turn your life into a machine. You don't need to be exact to the minute, but you do need to maintain anchors, fixed points in the day that your dog can rely on. A relatively consistent feeding time, a walk it can look forward to, a small nightly routine, even just sitting with it for a few minutes. Because when those things exist, your dog begins to breathe differently. It no longer waits in uncertainty. It no longer has to guess when you'll appear. It knows. And because it knows, it can finally relax. And a dog can only truly bond when it no longer has to worry about what comes next. Calmness doesn't come from doing more. It comes from becoming something your dog can trust to be consistent every single day. There's something many people do, but feel a little embarrassed when others see it. That is, talking to your dog, not giving commands, not sit, come, let's go, but actually talking like you would to a friend, telling it what you're doing, saying good morning, speaking a few random words as you walk by, and then you wonder, does it even understand? The answer is more than you think, because over tens of thousands of years living alongside humans, dogs didn't just learn to hear us, they evolved to understand us. Their brains developed in a very unique way to analyze tone, rhythm, and the emotional content in human speech. When you speak, your dog doesn't just hear sound, it senses your state, your joy, your fatigue, your calmness or tension. All of it comes through your voice. And more importantly, it knows when you're speaking to it. Studies have shown that a dog's brain responds very differently when you talk directly to it compared to when you talk to someone else, even if the words are the same. That means, to your dog, your voice isn't just noise. It's a form of connection. Think about your day. You go to work, you stay busy, you meet many people, you talk a lot, but for your dog, you might be its entire world and the only one it truly waits for. And when you come home, if you only feed it, walk it, but never truly talk to it, then a part of the connection is still missing. You don't need to say anything special, no perfect words required. Just let it hear your voice. Say good morning when you wake up. Tell it about your day. Say a few words while preparing a meal, or simply sit there and talk to it the way you would talk to a close friend. Because every time you do that, you're not just communicating, you're telling it, you are part of my life. And to a dog, that means everything. It's not just being cared for, it's being seen, being heard, being acknowledged as a living being with emotions, not just a routine in your day. And when a dog feels that, something very special happens. It opens up, not in a loud way, but gently. It looks at you longer, it comes closer more often. It begins to respond in its own way. A look, a soft touch, a quiet presence filled with connection. Because sometimes what your dog waits for all day is not food, not a walk, but simply your voice. At this point, you may have realized something. Your dog has never asked for much. It doesn't need complicated things. It doesn't need you to be perfect. It doesn't need a special life. What it needs has always been simple. A place where it feels safe, a body that is respected, a world it can predict, a space where it can be itself, and a voice it can listen to every day. But what makes all the difference is this. Do you understand that? Because throughout its entire life, everything revolves around you. When you leave, its world feels empty. When you return, its world becomes whole again. It doesn't have complex relationships like humans, no distant goals, no other choices. To your dog, you are not just part of its life, you are its whole world. And perhaps what surprises many people most is not that dogs love humans, but how they love. Quietly, without demands, without complaints, just waiting, every single day, in their own way. Waiting for you to understand, waiting for you to slow down, waiting for you to notice the things you've never seen before. You don't need to change everything all at once. Just one thing. Tonight, when you're with your dog, try sitting down. Don't call it. Don't touch it. Don't do anything. Just be there and observe. Maybe for the first time, you'll see the way it comes closer to you, not because you asked, but because it wants to. And that moment is when you truly begin to understand it. If you've made it this far, you're probably one of the few people who truly want to become the person your dog deserves. And if you want to understand more deeply the world your dog lives in every day, subscribe to the channel, because every next video will bring you a little closer to not just owning a dog, but truly connecting with it.